Good evening once again. It's Monday night. It's 8 o'clock and it's time for the Monday Review Show. Now, it is a very special Monday for us here living in Ireland or any Irish diaspora around the world and anybody else who likes us as well. Of course, it is 17th of March, St. Patrick's Day. Now, it's a huge occasion here in Ireland, and many of the iconic buildings around the world, like the Sydney Opera House and the Taj Mahal and Chicago, and the river runs green apparently in Chicago, and they even make green beer. Have you had a green beer, Keith?
I've not, but I've seen the pictures of photos, shall I say, of the Green River. I mean, and of course, I mean, the big one is New York. I mean,
yes.
First of all, you don't realize how many Irish people there are in New York. It's amazing how they have and go back to their ancestors.
Oh, indeed.
And yeah, I once had I refereed on the North American Soccer League and in the early 80s, and one of the guys who was involved in football had an Irish descent going way back, and he traced back to the potato famine.
Oh yeah,
and why family was in America, and it was actually a fascinating evening because we'd gone there for a beer and just to chat about football, and finished up how he'd researched his background and how he'd been back, and he said, I didn't realize I had so many relatives that were alive. But so it got all this sort of link stuff, and it was a really interesting story. I mean, I've been very fortunate to have lectured in Dublin and in Northern Ireland, as well as in the south, and the hospitality is always great. They call it the crack, don't they? And I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, the friendliness is amazing. I mean, I can remember I was a match delegate for a UEFA game that involved in the north, I think, St. Patrick's. So it was Paddy Daly was looking after us. I always remember that.
Paddy's still around, yeah.
Yeah, and he looked after us terrific.
Yeah,
but we arrived at the St. Patrick's ground and literally walked through a house to get to the stadium. It was it was absolutely unique. And of course, then you see the coracle in the river waiting to catch the ball. And I think that's part of the old thing. Let's try and during the match hit the ball into the river. But it was a great evening, a great 2 or 3 days, and of course. Phil Lynott, the statue is also something that
Tin Lizzie,
you go wow.
And one of the great players of English football that actually played for St. Patrick's was Rodney Marsh.
Crikey!
And I ran the line that night to him, and
amazing.
He was a real character. I remember flagging him offside and doing what all the English players, or all Premier League players are doing now. They're doing this,
yeah.
But he's a character. I didn't even introduce you, Keith, and we've already started. So delighted to be joined once again by my very good friend now, former Premier League, former FIFA referee, former head of the PGMOL, Keith Hackett. And Keith, thanks very much once again, Ronald, for joining us. Yeah, I must clarify something in case people think that that there's lots of drugs, which there probably is anyway, but crack is spelled C-R-A-I-C, not C-R-A-C. C-R-A-I-C, and the Irish expression, the Gaelic expression is caint ceol agus crack. Caint means talk or speak, conversation. Ceol is music, and crack means just have fun. Now, you could hear it in different contexts, like somebody saying, any crack means any gossip, or what's the crack, what's happening, was there lots of crack, was there lots of fun? So it's spelled C-R-A-I-C. just to clarify in case people think we're in drugs or something like that.
Yeah.
Thanks once again, Keith, for joining. This show is all about refereeing, and if you'd like to make a comment or ask a question, please do so. You can find a little space down there on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. I'm just going to put it down now there for you. And ask a question, leave a comment. Maybe you want clarification on something, please do so. Delighted to hear from you. Now, I want to start off this week, and this has caused enormous controversy, and I've had so many emails and phone calls, and is this right, is that right? I'm talking about the Champions League match the other night between Atletico and Real Madrid when it went to penalties, and one goal was chalked off, wasn't allowed, in other words, because the player played the ball twice. Now, how did he do that? Well, very simply, he was a right-footed player, so he was taking the kick with his right foot, but in the process, as he kicked the ball, his left foot slid in towards his right foot where the ball was and touched his left foot. And therefore, technically, he had played the ball twice, and you're not allowed to do that. With any free kick, you must play the ball first. Before you can play it again, it has to be touched or played by another player, not your own teammate, not an opponent, another player. So what happened here was it touched his left foot as he kicked it with the right foot, therefore technically had played it twice, and therefore the goal was ruled out. Now, did you see that incident, Keith?
I've seen it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
In truth, I've seen detailed camera angles. I've seen still photographs, and I've seen slow motion video. Of course, I think the referee was quite happy with the penalty kick that had resulted in a goal, and an important goal for Atletico.
Yeah.
Madrid playing Real Madrid. So big game for the referee, a big match referee anyway on this particular game.
Yeah.
And VAR intervened. So VAR came in and obviously highlighted the double touch. I have to say that given what I have seen, and in refereeing, you have to be factual and accurate, there is insufficient evidence to convince me, and this is my own opinion, that ball was actually played twice. And you know, when you are making big decisions or any decision in a football match, I say to referees, do not guess. Please do not guess. And there are a number of referees who have said to me, how can you justify that? Where is the proof with the evidence? They've sent me the same sort of photographs that I've already seen. So for me, I think this highlights the forensic examination that takes place in senior football at the elite level, where cameras try to demonstrate and show incidents and expose the referee. In my era, in your era, there'd been no problem. I think, first of all, we would have probably said, we've looked at it and we've judged it as we've seen it. We may say it's a double hit, or we may allow the goal. I think invariably we probably allow the goal. I have to say that under the terms of reference of VAR, it has to be clear and obvious error. And I find it difficult criticizing the match officials, if you like, but also saying factually, I think there is doubt as to whether that ball was played twice. There's no.
And then the question, of course, Keith, can be asked, in the past, going back and back and back, how many goals have been scored by a double touch? I mean, you wouldn't pick that up with the naked eye.
No.
And it was only something, like you say, forensically picked up by the VAR guy.
Yeah.
Now, he must have looked at it very, very closely. but it was difficult. I just want to say to people, viewers, that if in fact that is what happened, well, then the referee was correct. And Marciniak from Poland, who's a very, probably, in my opinion, one of the top three referees in Europe.
Yes, he is. No question.
Yeah, and he then got the thing in his ear because he allowed the goal, and he was quite happy that the goal was scored according to the laws of the game. But with VAR, with the penalty kick rather, being one of the 4 times that VAR can intervene, mistaken identity, red card, and a goal being scored offside and so on. But this is one of the 4 times that VAR can intervene, and that's why they did intervene. And the guy was obviously quite happy that it did touch, because it seemed he kicked it with the right foot, and in the process, it then touched his left foot before going into the net.
Yeah. I mean, look, ultimately, at the end of the day, we're discussing something that has happened and has gone. But if you're going to make a decision of this magnitude, this is a massive decision
huge,
in a penalty shootout in a Champions League game. Factually, you have to have the evidence that proves that ball was kicked twice. For me, and I don't want to be critical of the match officials, but for me and many other referees who I've had emails from, who equally have been FIFA international referees, they say, show me the evidence. And I've tried to defend the referee because he is a good referee. He's like, him and Clement Turpin, the French referee, are 2 outstanding referees in this period, in this era.
Absolutely.
So, and this is why I suddenly, look at it, and I hope that he's gone away, and he's had a look, and he's satisfied in his own mind that they've come to the right decision. And in reviewing that incident, would they have done it any better? Talk me through the incident, all those sort of things. He might be quite happy with it because this is a team that he works with on a regular basis. And of course, what then further fans the flames is that a year ago, Barcelona versus Real Madrid, this same team of officials were involved in a similar, very critical decision around a goal and offside that created a furore in the media and in Europe. What other, if you like, puts doubt in my mind is UEFA's comment. UEFA saying that they're going to approach FIFA, IFAB, with a view to a change in the penalty kick law. I'd be interested to know what stimulates that and what are they planning to put forward as a potential law change. Are they going to say that a double kick is allowed? I don't know. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, we can discuss, we can argue. Can we learn from it? For me, my view is the referee had a good view of it. He was happy with it. I don't think there's a clear and obvious error that triggers the VAR coming in. But once he comes in, the referee, knowing that he's got all the technical gizmos, but he doesn't show all the same angles, then you come to a conclusion. I mean, we had an explanation. Let me just expand that a little more.
Yeah, sure.
We had an explanation by Howard Webb a week ago when Andy Madley, the referee, detected a pull in the penalty area against a Manchester United player and penalised it. the referee, the VAR came in, they looked at that particular incident and ruled it out. They overturned the penalty kick, stating there wasn't an holding offence. But all along, the real incident was de Klerk, who actually was clearly holding. And I was surprised that Howard Webb, in his comment, said there was, there was a holding offence, but it wasn't the one that involved the Manchester United player Maguire, and therefore they came to the right decision. They didn't come to the right decision because an holding offence went unpenalised. So when we're talking about the use of VAR, with all the evidence that they've got to come through and be able to justify post-match that they've made the right decision. And the argument about that double kick still continues in Europe. Obviously, Atletico very unhappy with that particular call, and UEFA saying, "Well, we need to change the law." That's, for me, that's almost an admission that the double kick didn't take place. So it shows at the highest level how you've got to have the courage to go with your own conviction, which both did. Ideally, you've got to be 100% right when you're going to change the decision. And of course, the whole aspect of VAR is it clear and obvious? And because we're discussing it, or I am, and have continued to discuss it for over a week now, it is not clear and obvious that this player double played the ball. The level of clarity, we're second guessing. So how deep do you go? But when you're making such a critical decision, a KMI as we call it in refereeing, you've got to be 100%.
Yeah, no, and you made a good point there earlier, Keith. Also, and as referees will know, that Law 5 clearly states, and I'm paraphrasing now, that the referee's decision is final. Even with the intervention of VAR or assistants or fourth officials, the referee still has the final say. So I'm wondering if the referee was happy that there was no infringement, then why didn't he overrule the VAR as he's entitled to do and allow the goal?
Well, I put myself in the position of the referee, and that referee's developed a trust amongst the VAR and the two assistant referees and fourth official that he's working with. They've enhanced his career. They've delivered for him over a long period. Thomas Lištović, the senior assistant referee on that game, I've known him for a number of years. I've known his dad because his dad was a top-class referee. I was out in Mexico with him, and also became the president of the Polish FA. So in that sense, I'm fully aware of the quality. I think it's almost automatic now. What I'm seeing is rarely do we see a referee go against the intervention of the VAR. And I think they don't look, they glance, they don't look at it forensically. They develop a trust with their VAR colleague, almost saying, with all the screens and the replays he's got in front of him, I'm going to go with his decision. And I think it's almost happening automatically. I don't think it. I sometimes put it under the banner of lazy refereeing, but that lazy refereeing aspect is more about not making the decision and waiting for VAR intervention. This guy didn't hesitate. He was asked to review. He reviewed and he went with his colleague. And I think, team spirit. How often are we told when the throw-in is given, we're not encouraged to go against our assistant referee when he's indicating the throw-in decision? And I think it's born in us that the team spirit comes through, and we trust our individuals. So what I'm doing and what I always do is that, ultimately at the end of the day, I get asked the difficult question, given what you've seen, what is the outcome? And the outcome for me on this particular decision is I can clearly see the potential of a double play. But when I look at the video, I don't see that ball actually hitting the leg and being played twice as clearly as I would want it to be to overturn it.
Yeah. I'm just wondering in that context also how many goals have been allowed with a double touch, because you wouldn't see it with the naked eye. Keith, there was an incident during the week, I think it was in France, where a coach went really nose to nose with the referee who was giving him a red card, and he got the red card, and he has since been suspended for 9 months. And that's 100%. It should have been a year or more, as far as I'm concerned. But the general abuse of match officials, and what's even worse and more worrying, is that younger referees, and I'm talking about teenagers, 14, 15, 16-year-olds, being abused. I mean, this is just horrendous stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there is no doubt that the pathway that we enjoyed to the top was much easier,
yes,
in our era than it is today. I've seen games here in Sheffield where we have the biggest junior league in Europe. I think there's 1,700 teams play on a Sunday morning at junior level. Wow. And they're very good. The league, the management of that league, the work that they do with parents and all is outstanding. But you still get games where the 2/3 of the field are covered in spectators. Mm. And of course, abusing the young referee. And you suddenly go, here's a young referee learning his craft, and we learn through experience. We do make mistakes. We're human. Often we're operating without assistant referees, which make it even more difficult. Or we're actually got two volunteers who are persuaded by their own teams the decisions that they give, putting it politely.
Club linesmen, we used to call them, eh?
Yeah. There's no question that they're under a great deal of pressure, and that abuse. And I've seen it. I've actually seen that verbal abuse turn into a physical confrontation with a young referee. And I intervened. Maybe I shouldn't have done, but I did. I intervened and told the perpetrator he was a disgrace. And at that point, that young referee was going to walk away from refereeing. And it took me and his uncle who was at the game about 20, 30 minutes to convince him. And he then had great courage to go back on. And he got a round of applause, and he got a great reception at the end of the match. The reality is that one incident, we could have lost a young up-and-coming referee.
Indeed.
And I think it's, I think football generally, I have to say that there are many things that I'm critical about with regard to the English FA. But I think in recent years, they're working extremely hard to get this scenario resolved. We have the sin bin, but I don't think referees use it enough. I watched a game on Saturday. I'm not going to get into too much detail. The referee made a very good decision, mature referee, up and coming, made a very good free kick decision. He was absolutely accurate.
It was a local match, yeah?
A local match.
Yeah.
And I was sat there watching it. He made a perfectly good decision. The manager of one of the teams was outrageous. And eventually, rightly so, the referee gave him a yellow card. I thought then, I'm thinking, I said to someone, I wonder why he's not sent to the sin bin? Why isn't he asked to leave? You know, if we yellow card a manager during the course of the game, yellow card, why don't we put a punishment in that says you're out? Almost like a red card, but the punishment is immediate. You're no longer allowed in that technical area. You're off. You know? So I think it's almost like saying, should we say that where a manager or coach is abusing the referee verbally, we should ignore the yellow card and just go red and say where a member of the technical area is abusing a referee verbally, the sanction that is applied to that individual is an immediate red card. There isn't a step process because he continued with his comments that were negative.
So even after getting the yellow card, he continued.
Yeah. I mean, look, you're in the middle of the park. You know, you can engage. I think the referee was looking at it when there was that first incident and he had to do what he did. I think in fairness to him, his concentration was on the game and that's where his gaze was, not at the technical area. It was almost like saying, I'm ignoring you. But it's an example, I think, of why we lose referees. I mean, there's a guy called Ross Joyce at the English FA. He's a Football League referee. So he's on the national list. He's an outstanding educator. He's an outstanding coach. And, you know, at North Riding was brilliant. Now he's at the FA. And he works his socks off. And, you know, we've got now 37,000 registered referees in England. It went down to about 27,000. And, you know, it's almost every weekend he's commenting about the workshops that he's been running, how he's introducing more training and development of referees. And now they're going to look at how referees are assessed. They're going to look at the assessment scheme at a given level of that referee's career to try and encourage referees to be proactive and not reactive. And I think to myself, you know, the English FA have changed in the last couple of years to a very positive manner towards referee education and coaching here in England.
Okay, Keith, you picked up an incident in the Chelsea-Arsenal game.
Oh, well.
Just got 2 minutes left.
Right, I'll tell you. There were 3. This is involving a player called Lammy of Chelsea. First, and Chris Kavanagh was the referee, so an experienced referee. This player commits a very clear cautionable offence. The referee does nothing. He then commits what I believe to be a stamping offence. The Arsenal player, Rice, I think, is on the floor with the ball in between his legs, facing down. And this player decides to try and stamp to get the ball. He didn't receive a sanction. At the very least, it was reckless. Then, afterwards, he commits a serious foul play offence where the player is clearing the ball. He continues to challenge, not for the ball, but the flat of his boot finishes on the shin of the opponent. It was with force. And, you know, even the commentator sort of indicated he ought to have had a sanction. Well, I'm telling you, he should have had a red card, and he could easily have had 2 red cards because he could have had one earlier than the one that he should have had. But he didn't. He got away with it. And I'm thinking, this is not the type of officiating that we want to see in the English Premier League. The challenges that threaten the career of an individual player, those are the ones that need to be really sanctioned with a red card, and that individual. Now, I've been asked, because many people have commented, will that be upgraded? I doubt it. You know, but that is, for me, that challenge. If anybody at the FA looks at it, or even if Arsenal report it, that challenge should be upgraded from a yellow to, he was given a yellow for that, deemed reckless, but it was serious foul play.
Okay, Keith, thanks very much. We've come to the end. Goodness, the time goes so quickly. But thanks very much again for your participation on the show. Really much appreciated. And thank you out there for looking and listening, or rather, and tuning in. We'll do it all again next Monday, same time, 8 o'clock. Until that time, happy St. Patrick's Day to you all. Good night and God bless. Thank you.
And the same.